Good evening, everybody. I am back once again with my first cousin, Dave Beachy. I had him on the other day, and he's got a lot to share, and there's a specific reason, a specific thing that he's going to share tonight. I wanted him to share, and he said he'd do it. But first of all, several of you that reached out and said the other video was such a blessing and how powerful the testimony was. That's awesome. That was meaningful to you, and you really appreciate that.
Yeah.
So hopefully this testimony will be powerful like some of the others that he shared. He actually had an accident. And so if you want to start out, just kind of share with that accident you had with the building come down and you got injured, and then you went to the hospital.
You're just ruining it, you know.
So I didn't spoil the whole thing, but I started it for you.
No, it's fine. It's fine. Well, first of all, I want to thank you for everybody's support and just I didn't think that it would mean so much to other people of my testimony, and it was truly a blessing to hear. So thank you and for that. But anyway, so like Eli was saying, the reason we're on here to talk about my accident is I'm basically a local truck driver, not like Eli, but I drove belly dumps, dump trucks, haul heavy equipment and things like that. Well, at this day, we were slow and we were waiting on some customers to show up, and it was snowy, and then they couldn't come, and something came up. But anyway, so we basically this single wide mobile home office type deal. It was a whole lot shorter than the regular single whites that you sometimes see going down the road. But it was given to one of the workers, and from my boss's place. And so we decided to go ahead and do that. Well, I was asked to come up and help. I was basically out cutting wood for the fires. I was taking care of a lot of the unthawing the ground, the water. It's like an outside stove, but in the back you could put water in, and it would circulate it.
Yeah.
To keep the ground unthawed so you can put footers in. But my boss had a big one, so I was cutting wood for it. But anyway, I got asked to come up and help. So when my supervisor showed up with some 4x4s and 4x6s blocks, I just didn't, he mentioned something that it might be dangerous, but I didn't think about any of it. I just went up underneath, with the bottle jack and the handle, and to jack the bottle jack up to lift the building. And in the meantime, two of the employees were putting the axles underneath to put the tires on. And so they were on their last axle, and they would take the tools around, take the bottle jack from me, and the only thing I had to do was, take my own self and go from one end to the other. I didn't have to carry anything. So everything was going good, and I moved up, like the building's sitting here, so I moved up towards the left front of the building, towards the tongue. And we were kind of easy jacking up. And my boss just made a comment of, "Hey, David, you're doing a really good job. I really, admire your work." And I just was like, "Oh, thank you." And I'm not going to mention names because, of course I didn't ask. But anyway, just in a few seconds after that, it seemed like that anyways. First, on the other side, there was a pile of dirt or frozen ice still from coming off the roof. So while the building blocks and everything gave, it almost got three of the other. One was my boss and two other workers.
Okay.
My boss and the other workers got away. But the building kind of came down and it turned because it caught on the other side where that lump was.
Okay.
And it turned, and the actual frame, everything came down on my left side and squished me to the ground. And I got all 6 ribs on this side broken, 1 through 5, and then number 8. And then I got the humerus fractured and punctured lung and a little bit of the kidneys. And even my spleen was bleeding as well.
Your spleen was bleeding?
My spleen
Oh, wow.
bled a little bit, yeah. So I got right from my boss's place, life flighted to Billings at that point.
This is in Idaho? Or
Wyoming.
Wyoming. Gotcha.
Yep. Matiti. So I was functional enough that I could hear the guys. And all I could hear was, Dave. And everybody's silent. And when I yelled for help, the F-bomb flew and everybody just scattered to get things rounded and to get that building off of me. And my boss grabbed the skid steer and came around, was going to pick up on a tongue, while 3 guys had to shut him down because they didn't realize or knew how the tongue was fastened or anything, because they didn't want the building to come back down.
Yeah.
And so my supervisor, he actually dropped down on his knees and found the bottle jack, found the handle for the bottle jack, and start jacking up. And everything was white in front of me. And then for a split second, I saw him. And then everything went white again in front of my ass. So I knew he was there, chucking away, trying to get that building off of me. And so when I felt that it was loosening, I actually twisted myself and got loose. And I turned and crawled out from under myself and laid on the opposite side, which was the left side, which was where the I-beam was actually sitting on my ribs. And by the time the paramedics got there, I only had 10% breathing.
10%?
Yeah.
Wow.
And so and then I got life flighted, and I guess when I was sedated for 10 days, and they woke me up on the 2nd. And I was still kind of in that sedation. In my time that I was sedated, it was like 3 different hospitals in my sedation. Basically, what we believed the devil and God were fighting at that point. God was fighting to keep me alive. The devil was fighting to take me. So it was to the point where there was a lot of darkness, to the point where people that are not even, that I don't even know in the hospital that were there. It was just people that want to shoot me, people that want to take me and just kill me. It was a lot of different items in there. And while this one hospital, it was kind of ran by aliens.
Would you say this is all like a vision?
This is when I'm sedated.
Oh, well, you're in one hospital, but you're seeing all of this. Okay.
Right.
Gotcha.
I'm in one hospital, and it was to the point, since the Amish were dark, kind of where I grew up, everything was negative.
Right.
Well, of course, I heard my brother's voice. I heard my sister's voice. I heard would be Chandra's wife, Elma. I heard her voice, and I remember them asking them, "Do you want to see him?" They peeped around the corner, and they would go, "Nah, we'll let him go. We'll just move on."
Wow.
Like they just ignored me. And that was part of Satan.
Yeah.
Just trying to separate.
Yeah.
And it got so bad in that round hospital that the hospital seemed like, and at the same time, I want to clarify with some of you out there, if you don't understand, that I was totally in one hospital. The hospital was not running away. This is all in my sedation, where the round hospital that I was in, and there was this guy named Chris. He had spiky hair. He had, small spiky hair, not like mohawk or anything like that.
Right.
He was clean cut.
Yeah.
Even though in the real world I had a guy named Chris too, but he had black hair. And this guy had kind of the color of mine, but they had like conditioner in them, to make them spike.
Did you recognize him? You didn't recognize him in the vision? Okay.
I didn't
You just know his name was Chris.
Right.
Gotcha.
Because he came in and said, "My name is Chris. I'm a nurse, and this is what I developed." And he was just talking, and in the sedation, in that vision, I have half a dozen doctor bands. When they give you medicine,
right,
or you're high risk of falling, they have to put that around your arm. Yeah. Well, I had half a dozen of those. And in my vision, when I woke up and came to myself, where I knew where I was, I didn't have all that.
Gotcha.
And so it was to the point where the hospital, basically what they were calling it in my vision was that aliens were trying to take the hospital. Like there was the big, round, colorful ball that would make the electricity.
Oh, okay.
And it would just spin. Well, pretty soon, when they were trying to take the hospital because they didn't like how these guys were running it in my vision. So the ball would spin so fast that it would literally go in the sky, but it would be touching the building. So the building would actually take off and transformers blowing. And it would kind of just go over and bump against the fence, and then it would come back and they would set it back down. And the whole time I'm attached to that.
Wow.
And of course water started coming in, and my bed is soaked. And they just keep telling me, just stay low, stay low. And in that time, it was like I was still alive, but I had one half of this rib was gone. Literally gone. Only thing I had is this half of the rib and my feet and my hip. But the rest of it was gone.
Okay.
And they were like, "Well, you can't
See ya.
you can't eat because of your accident." That's what they kept telling me. And I was so hungry. Like my body was just, I can't even explain it, the way it felt. And so when my brother and some of the ex-Amish, there was also ex-Amish people that I didn't even know that were there. And they were laughing over this ball. And then there are doctors that were out there. Where are you taking my hospital? Why are you doing this? You know, you're not going to take this. You know, and I'm not afraid of you. And just yelling at this, whatever this was. And, well, it kept on taking off. One end would pick up or, you know, and then, poof, I'm in a completely different environment where they said I'm in intensive care. And to the point where that roof would collapse. They couldn't, it was like the hospital was made out of mud kind of thing. That they, you know, could literally shake it with the electricity that they had, and it would create mud on the floor. So they could actually turn the hospital 360, and on the other side was clean, completely. And so it was to the point where they were saying, "Oh, they're taking advantage of us. You know, she's making sure that I'm taken care of, and she calls down. It's so irritating. I mean, just everything was negative."
Mm-hmm.
But the whole time I was sedated, doctors actually were telling her, "Yeah, call down at this time because we're switching, so
yeah,
you know, somebody else will answer." And she would, in real life, while I'm still sedated. But in my sedation, everything was negative. To where they were, you know, this guy named Chris was like, "Why in the hell is he down there? Like, you know, I gave him this. He's all right. He's ready to go home."
Yeah.
And the whole time I had this half thing that I couldn't even move. And so it was just really, I felt alone because I'd never even seen her in this sedation. And then I, you know, was hearing that she done something, that she was going to prison in Oregon. Just, you know, more and more and more negative, to the point where there was so much wind that the hospital was tearing apart. And that's when I switched into now the third hospital. And it was tearing it apart. And they were yelling my name like, "David, why are you doing this?" And yet I was not even doing nothing.
Right.
And pretty soon, next, it was like the sheriff truck. It was a Chevy, one of those newer ones, parked up against my bed so I can't leave. The whole side was open. And then, you know, downstairs, and even, it was like Asian women were taking care of the downstairs. They were yelling my name because the basement was filling up with water to where it was killing the women and the newborn babies that they were having down in the hospital. Like, everything was just negative. The only part that was really kind of good was this guy named Chris. He came in, and I mean, he gave me a bath. And so, but it was like this, in this time that this sheriff was here, the other doctors would tell them, "Give me your gun, I just want to shoot him. He's nothing but trouble. They keep hanging around, we want to just get rid of him." Him and his wife. But, so she was kind of mentioning that, but the whole time, it was like she was driving my truck, but yet she wasn't.
Mm-hmm.
And so, somehow she came down while I was looking at this camera that they kept telling me that was not hooked up. And there was a whole lot of red and black, like, strings. And they kept touching me, and every time I looked up, that camera fed off of my energy. My heart would literally boom, 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 boom. And the hospital would move every time I moved my head, like this way or this way. The hospital would move. And the minute if I think of like turning, the hospital would turn. And it would smack against, I demolish churches. And so it was just what God or what I believed in was getting damaged.
What you believe. So this was demonic, you would say. This was a demonic, evil experience.
Yeah.
I was just watching the comment there, what Clara Lehman Helmuth says. That sedation stuff is wicked. So that you would say that was a wicked experience from the enemy.
Yeah.
One of my other friends experienced hallucination when she was sedated. So that's it seems like people have had that experience that you are describing here, where it was obviously demonic.
Right. So anyway, Sheriff kept saying, no, you can't do that. That's against the law. You know, so I had I felt some backup there. And so with all the hospital moving and stuff, cops were actually laughing like they couldn't believe what was going on. Like, it sounded like I was tearing up the town. But in the whole time, I was in ICU in one building.
Mm-hmm.
And, a bunch of those.
Yeah.
So, and then when I woke up, where I could talk to my wife, that's obviously sitting in the living room, basically, she told me the whole story. It's the fact that it was one morning that she came in. She was sitting there, or standing beside my bed, however, but there was a young doctor that came in, or stepped on it. He was on the outside of the room, but he looked at me and said, "You need to get those tubes out of his throat now." Well, then I was too little weak for that, so they waited until next morning. They upped my medication and lowered my sedation, and woke me up. And I don't know how. She said I prayed twice. One was when I was waking up, and I was still in that sedation mode, kind of, and I was just waking up out of that.
Yeah.
I grabbed her hand and I prayed. And then I remember only one time praying, but she said I did twice, which the other one was when I was coming out of sedation.
Okay.
And she never saw this young doctor again. Never. The whole time we were there. And then after that, they had more doctors come in. Well, this one doctor came in, and I think that was when I was still sedated. Yeah, this one doctor came in when I was still sedated and poked me on the right side, which was the broken side.
Yeah.
And I flinched. And he turns around and walks over to my wife and says, "I'm sorry for your loss." And she stood up, was like, "What the heck? Like, why?" So what I could picture in that is God was working with one guy and Satan was working with another.
Okay.
In that aspect. So she walked over to the nurse after he walked out, because the minute he said it, he turned around and walked out of the room pretty fast.
Mm-hmm.
And she walked over to the nurse and was like, "He is all right, isn't he?" She was like, "Yeah, he's perfectly fine.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to come out of this."
Yeah.
And so with that, it even blessed the doctors and changed their lives. The fact that with my incident, that I walked out of there, that the first night they saw me, they thought I was a goner.
Mm-hmm.
And when they came back, the first night the second day that I was in the hospital, they came back. My spleen stopped bleeding and was healing.
Wow.
They didn't even do nothing to it. And so then I woke up on March 2nd, and I went home on March 8th. Because when I went to the 6th floor, I guess I just went up from there. Healed pretty fast.
It's amazing.
But even in that, I had those still kind of dreams kind of thing. Yeah. Where I thought this hospital was going to fall at any minute. That every time a wood piece flew off that hospital, it stabbed the animal. Rather it was a horse, a cow, or something. That I would hear that my door was open and went, yet it wasn't. Oh, there goes another cow. He's got to go shoot that too now. You know, it was just constantly like that.
Everything was so negative.
Yeah, everything was negative. And how my room was, my recovery room, I could see half of or quarter of a wall. Mm-hmm. Well, it was so windy and to where the hospital was almost going to the point where there was a crack down the wall. So after I came out of completely, where I had enough sleep, and that was part of it too. That when I woke up, I didn't sleep for 3 days, 3 or 4, I think 3 or 4 days, something like that. That I was in the ICU. I couldn't. Mm-hmm. And the minute I went upstairs, within a half an hour, I was clunking out. To where my wife went back to the hotel room. Mm-hmm. But I still had off and on, I would wake up, go back to sleep, wake up, make sure that I'm not falling.
Yeah.
You know, stuff like that. And then it got so bad in that they were starting to send staff home. Well, might as well just, go home. There's nothing really to do here. And he's just tearing everything up. But yet there was nothing going on. Yeah. I was in the same hospital.
Yeah, so demonic.
Yeah.
Sarah Hover was saying hydrocodone, whatever that name is, will make you feel like the walls are closing in on you. So that medication, whatever they had you on, probably made you go into all this demonic kind of, you were seeing all this wicked stuff. It was definitely spiritual, you would say, though. A spiritual thing. Where
yes. Oh, absolutely.
Roger Hall says, hope you're doing better, my friend.
Yeah. Hey,
you're
Roger.
healing pretty fast, ain't you?
Yeah, it's coming around. I got released for 15 pounds now, and which I'm still restricted. But, I'm coming around.
Isn't it amazing when you have an injury that where even a doctor can say, nah, there's very little chance, there's no way. Sometimes there's doctors say, nope, ain't going to make it. Yeah. And that supernaturally God just, if he ain't done with you, he ain't done with you.
Yeah. And I had one appointment after I left the hospital, got released to go home. They were in there, they first thought that I was going to have to do rehab, going to have to do therapy, or one or the other. Well, they came in, therapy people came in, and they did some tests on me and stuff like that, and I just, took it easy and went right around them, and they were like, he doesn't need rehab.
Yeah.
He just needs therapy.
Wow.
So I leave the hospital, I go home, and so my next appointment was April the 22nd. One was on the 22nd, my lung doctor, and my shoulder doctor was on the 23rd. And so when we went up there, he just checked my lungs a little bit by hearing with his ears and stuff like that, and kind of spoke with me and said that he wants to see me on or was this was March 23rd.
March 23rd?
March 22nd and 23rd. And then April 13th, I went back for the second lung doctor. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's when I kind of, I requested the X-ray to kind of see what's going on with my lungs.
Yeah.
And so they did, and he came in and he said, "You got a little bit of fluid on your right lung, which is normal, and shortness of breath on both." And he said, "There's nothing going on." He said, "If it stays like that," he said, I'm still in shock because I'm the one that saw you the first night that you came in." He said, "People with injuries like that just give up. They're done. And there's nothing the doctors can do. But for somebody to fight, they're right there ready to fight with you."
Yeah.
And he said, "You're going uphill." And he's just amazed, like how quickly I'm healing. And he said, "The way your lungs look," he said, if there's no questions, I don't want to see you again."
That's
So
awesome.
I just did 2 visits with my lung doctor. And now I'm just basically, when we go home, June 1st is my next appointment for my shoulder. That I gotta go back to Billings. And so I'm hoping in the meantime, while I can work out a little bit and kind of get that function back into, my fracture, and hopefully I can get back to strength, having strength.
Well, the good thing out of the whole thing, while you're healing, you got to come to Ohio and visit me.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And actually, I never even met you.
Right. We've never met each other face to face.
So this was like a reunion.
Right.
I met David Yoder once.
Yeah.
That was, it. But other than that, cousin Melvin was 8 years old when last time I seen him.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Wow. So you were, I left in 98. What year was you born?
98, so I was 10 years old.
You were 10 years old when I left.
Yeah.
I never met you face to face
because I was born in 89.
Okay, 89.
So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't remember you. You didn't remember me at all. I mean, we never met. So, yeah. So when you came to Ohio, first time meeting face to face. So.
Yeah.
But I'm just amazed by how he works. When he's not done, he's not done. And for having that kind of injury like you had, Dave, he completely pulled you through it.
Mm-hmm.
And it just shows how, supernatural power of God can pull you through, even when a doctor says, "Oh, well, there's very little chance. You got 10% chance to live," or whatever it might be. Mm-hmm. They have no idea what God's plan is. The doctors just don't know.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that kind of testimony, because I just thought that was fascinating. I think, a lot of people give up easy. You're a fighter. Mm-hmm. And you even said the doctor thought you was a fighter to get through that.
Yeah.
That's what got you through it.
Yeah. And even the first, going back to the first, when it happened, the whole time when I was laying underneath there, only thing I saw was my wife, which we are expecting in August, so a little boy. But we're, that's all I could see is her and the baby. Mm-hmm. And so I had something to fight for to,
right.
So, yeah.
You had something to fight for to stay alive.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
No wonder he was having hallucination.
Mm-hmm.
Wilma Beachy, you're definitely cousins. You must look alike or something. We're not twins, but we are cousins.
Yeah.
So, I guess anything else you want to share as far as the Amish? You definitely, the last video, you definitely had some really, some rough way of growing up. We had it rough. We had a dad was also abusive and alcoholic, and I've shared that before, but you just had another level of some things you went through, and I guess what I'm most fascinated about you, Dave, is how you actually stood up, stood up for yourself, and I admire that. I wish I would have stood up for myself a little bit more. When it comes to the elders, obviously I wasn't baptized either, and you were baptized in the Amish, so I guess that's what stands out to me in the first video with you, is how you just stood up against those so-called bullies.
Yeah.
a lot of people I've noticed they didn't understand that bullying does happen in the Amish, and you experienced quite a bit of that, correct?
Yeah, a lot of it.
There's a lot of people.
I don't know if I shared about when I had left that I went and found out Hawaii, and that when my brother was working for this guy that I knew, and I went and got confirmation. I don't know if I shared that in the last video or not.
Well, it's up to you. You can share it if you want.
Well, if I shared it, I don't want to
Yeah, I don't remember you talking about that. Wilma Beachy, you kind of look alike, but your personality, one Eli Yoder is enough. Hey, that's enough, Wilma. Before we wrap it up, though, I want you all to put your comments in there, your questions in the comments, and we'll answer your questions. If you got any questions about the community. Your community and my community were both old order style Amish, so they were very similar. His community in Gladwood, Michigan, and mine in Kenton actually agreed with one another. They actually could have church with one another because the rules were pretty much the same, very, very similar. The Orton was the same.
Yeah.
So.
Well, it was just kind of, I guess I don't know if I shared this in the first video or not, but when I had left, my step-grandma actually came to me and said, I need to tell you something. Okay. And she said, sit down. And so I was like, okay. So I sat down, and she said, the Thursday night that you left. I said, yeah. She said, I know God took you out of there. And so she was around for most of my grown up life, into the teens and stuff like that. But anyway, just like she literally said that the next day on Friday, Dad and some of the Amish were going to gang up, strip a bag over my head, and take me out somewhere and drop me off and never look back. And so when she said that, I didn't want to believe her. And I found out that my brother, that's still back in the Amish right now, that he was working with a guy that I knew. He hauled a lot of cedar for the Amish. He passed away a while back now, but a lot of little cedars, and we helped them. You know, me and my brother used to carry one tree on each shoulder, and we walk over, you know, dead trees and out to the truck. But anyway, so we knew him very well, and my brother was working, remodeling his house. And so I biked down there with my mom's bike, and so I'm not realizing, with the strength that I had in my legs, that I'm biking along, and I'm going up this little grate, and all of a sudden it was like I was going backwards. My feet just went real fast, and I couldn't figure out why. All of a sudden my bike was going backwards, and I looked kind of behind me, and I couldn't figure it out, and all of a sudden there was a chain laying on the road. The bicycle chain busted. And so now I had to walk down to this guy's place. And so anyway, so I walked up there, and of course he came out, the English guy. He came out and he said, can I help you? And I said, yeah. And I told him who I was, and he goes, oh, I know who you are. And he said, what can I help you with? And I said, is my brother here? And he goes, yeah. Can I speak with him? And he goes, yeah, he's in the house in the back. Okay, so I went in the house and so we were talking and just chit chatting. He was he was almost like sucking up to me, kind of being very nice to me. So I said, well, the reason I'm here, I have a question. And he goes, yeah. So I said, was Dad gonna strip it back over my head and take me out somewhere and drop me off and never look back? He didn't say yes or no. He said, wait, did Sandy tell you? That was my confirmation right there.
Because he didn't give you a yes or a no.
Right.
And
he turned bitter red to the point where it was almost purple. He turned that red.
You just had your confirmation that they were plotting to literally get rid of you.
Yes.
If you'd have stayed Amish.
Yes.
Wow.
Yep. Yep.
Now that's something else. I see that's how God, he showed up. The Lord showed up and got you out of there.
Mm-hmm.
How many days was that? The gap when you found out, when you go back in time, when you found that out, when you got out, wasn't it that following weekend? Within days?
No, it was. I think it was like a couple of weeks.
Couple weeks.
Yeah.
But it wasn't far off.
No, because I left in July of 2008, and in November of 2008, my brother was getting married. That's in Alabama. Yeah. So in between that time frame, I found a lot out about the Amish. And even some of the English were not happy. But the Amish were stealing money from them. They would tell them they were going to do this way. And when the English guy wanted to have like a different roof frame on his house, a different house than anybody else, the Amish were going to build it this way. That's all they were going to do. They didn't do it what the English guy wanted.
Yeah.
They wanted what they wanted. And just little things like that I would hear.
Yeah.
And, some came to me for advice. I said, kick them. Kick them to the curve. Don't be scared. They think they're rough and tough. Just see ya. Get him out of there. And so I don't know if he did or not. He didn't come back to me or not, but they would come to me and ask. Mm-hmm. Some of them that knew me from the Amish.
Yeah.
Yeah. And, but while I was back in the Amish, I guess I'm going to get into that one.
That's fine.
While I was Amish, when back to my uncle and Eli Slaybaugh. It was basically my uncle David Beachy and Eli Slaybaugh, and they were the ones that came the first time and wanted to speak to me because I stood up to my dad when I was 16. And in that time frame, I found out about my dad, and of course, I shared that in the other video. Understood my dad because of my grandpa. Then after that, it just kind of fell apart again. When he realized that I was understanding him, he changed. And just to, he'd always try and do something to make me mad. And for instance, he one time wanted to take my horse. And I might have shared it on another video. I don't know, but I'll share it again. And I said no. And so he would be like, well, yeah, I'm going to take it. Because he knew I ride him every day. Mm-hmm. I'm personally using him. So that day, he wanted to take him to the sawmill. Well, finally I was like, okay, fine. And at that point, I kind of just backed up. I was a little kind of angry still, but I just backed up. And I, was like, okay. And I harnessed him up. I hitched him up to the buggy, got him ready. Dad hopped on, left. Well, that night he came home and it was dark. He came home and he goes, I am never going to drive that horse again. This horse is possessed. Just, round and round he would go. This is your horse. And, well, that was ringing in my ears.
Right.
And so I said, well, I was kind of laughing inside, but I was like, what happened? I was on my way home on Shell Road, and a car came in behind me, and he took me through the ditch and back out. And and that's when I bust out laughing. And so he was like, I don't understand. I did. Because me and him are attached. I knew what, I could just sit there with the lines hanging down over the bars there on the buggy where, I had a bar that came across and came up and stopped on both sides. Well, I could just hang the lines on the bar and go to sleep. He knew I was there. So he would trot down the road, go home.
Your horse knew you.
Oh, yeah. And, and so it's just the fact that he didn't hear my voice.
Yeah.
I took him home many times on a gravel road. But he heard my voice.
Yeah.
So he just traveled straight down the road. But that night, he took his top buggy.
He didn't hear your
and
voice.
This ditch was like deep down in and back up on the other side. So he basically took him this way and back down onto the road. And it was funny. It was really funny.
But he didn't flip the buggy?
No, he didn't flip the buggy. But,
But that taught him a lesson.
Right.
Try to take your horse.
So when he wanted to do it again and I confronted him, I said, well, I thought this was my horse. Oh, I don't know. I didn't say that. But yet, I know he did. And he knew he did, but he didn't want to admit it.
Why was he always picking on you?
He picked on everybody. All the family.
Seems like he really had it out for you. For something. He took his anger out on you.
Well, yeah, and also I stood up.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could say I stood up more than any of the brothers did. I know my brother that's still back in Amish did a little bit, but not as much as I did.
Yeah.
So I warned my uncle that was there to so-called telling me I can't stand up to my dad. And I flat out told him, I said, if you wouldn't have treated him like that, then maybe he would be a better dad than what he is. And so as they were talking, it just made me angrier. And I looked at David and Esther both. And this is another thing. I don't think I shared that in the video I started. But Esther Slaybaugh, I was friends with one of their sons. And I think I did share part of that. And I don't know if I finished it. And so Esther thought that I would change my mind and speak up if he would say, well, you and Vernon can't be friends anymore. And I'm going to tell him that. Okay, that's fine. That is totally fine. That's not going to bother me a bit. I said, you know what, Esther? I said, I grew up by myself. I played by myself. I even crapped by myself. So, basically, I don't care. I do not care that you want to do that. And of course he did. Vernon wouldn't hang out with me. That's completely fine. It just made me stronger. And to the point I started going to the bishop. But I warned him that night. I said, don't stop back in. Well, this is not your place. This is Dad's place. Aaron Beachy's place. I'm his son. I think it's just as much as my place as his.
Right.
But they didn't make it sound like that. So I said, well, I'm his son. I think it's just as much my place as it is his. Because I work on it.
Right.
He leaves. He goes. And just kind of the way my dad was is when he found a building, like let's say a log cabin, and this log cabin had boards inside, and we actually tore it down. And well, he immediately thought, well, I can save this and build my pig pen out of it, and / shop. And so we took these boards home. Well, I had to clean them. And so I said, okay. I said, Dad, I want you to come out and put the 4x4s, or the stickers, we call them stickers, right where you want the pile. And I will set up my sawhorses right there, and I will clean every board and put it right on that stack. He did. He came out, he set it up, and I cleaned every board. I was done by night before he came home. And he came home. I took his horse, and everything, put it in the barn. All of a sudden he came over. I don't know if he went in or in the house yet or not. But he came over and he said, David, like really aggressive. I was like, what the heck did I do now? And so I went out and I said, what? Why the heck is that pile there for? I don't want it there. Why did you put it there? Dad, I didn't move the 4x4s. You put it there. No, I did not. But yet I did not move those 4x4s. Said, okay, I'm done.
Yeah.
I don't care anymore.
You just did all that work.
Yep.
No. Good job, son.
Exactly. Nothing.
But yet, it's always anger, and he always wanted to take it out on you if something didn't go his way.
Yeah. He never admitted that he put it there. But it was that morning to that night. Is he that forgetful? I don't think so. He was just mentally ill.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of the past just, he wanted to take out on something. He felt good. Yeah. And so they showed up again. These Deegan and Miss, or both the Deegans, or something like that.
Yeah.
So I was done. So I grabbed the 30-30 rifle. And I pointed out through the window right at the horse's head. And then I moved away from the horse's head. I had no intention of killing the horse, which I didn't. So some of you relax. I pointed away and I pulled the trigger. That horse flipped around so fast I thought the buggy was going to flip. And he went right back out the same tracks that he came in. And Dad never said a word to me.
You scared that Amish guy.
I scared both of the Deacons.
Oh, they were the Deegans of the...
Yeah, Uncle David and Esther Slaybaugh. Yep.
I bet they ain't never been shot at.
And...
now, I never had that kind of nerve.
So, one time I had to kill a skunk that was underneath the cupboard. And so I went for the 22. And of course my dog was out there and everything, and he was getting scored at, and he was starting to smell. But so I went after the 22. No guns. There was no guns where they were.
So you knew that your dad knew what you did, obviously.
Yeah.
So now he hid all the guns.
Mm-hmm. Yep. And Dad didn't try and get David and Esther around after that. He just basically hollered and screamed.
Yeah.
Till I was done.
Yeah.
Or till I left. But just that stuff like that, I think the fact that they couldn't control me,
Yeah.
that I was winning, is when they were going to gang up on me and take me out somewhere and never look back.
What you shared earlier there, it's very clear that God let you know through your brother when you finally asked him that question. God showed you that your Amish family was literally planning on getting rid of you, dropping you off, put a bag over your head.
Yep.
And who would have thought an Amish cult would be capable of such a thing?
Yeah. And I'm not even, I'm kind of wondering if my Uncle John's kids were not, knew about it.
Yeah.
Because they were all of a sudden just being so nice.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden it was just, I had to wonder, like, why is this?
Yeah.
So, it's just, it was kind of good. It kind of felt really good. Just more they did, the stronger I got.
And they wasn't used to that.
No.
Because everybody else would bow down to them.
Yep.
Because the Amish church has power over the people. So when you stood up and you actually did something about it, they weren't used to that and they couldn't stand you. They would rather get rid of you, get you out of the way.
Yep.
Now, you don't have to, but would you like to share, like, your dad was so angry when he realized you outsmarted him? If you want to share that, how he lost his mind, he got real angry with the animals. You said something the other day, you don't have to share that if you don't want. Killed some of the goats. And
Oh, that's when I had left.
after you left.
Yeah.
But when he realized that you outsmarted him and left without him being able to stop you, he got very angry.
Oh, yeah. So when I left, he was the only one basically feeding all the animals. Like, I would be at home when I knew, like, a horse was close to having birth. I'd be out there. And if it had trouble, I didn't have nothing over my arm or nothing. I just reached in there and I just turned the baby and pulled it out and helped the mother. I was more worried about, saving the life than I was worried about the mess. And same way with goats. I made sure the pigs were in the crates to have piglets. Everything was on time. And Dad would ask me what time he would, what time this or that happened, and I would tell him. But now Dad has all this on him. Well, when he got angry, he didn't care about nothing. So I went back 2 years later. Here's the billy goat dead, couple of nannies. And he said, oh, they just died. I don't know why. But I found out from other sources that he was so angry that he took it out on the animals.
Wow. Killed him. Wow. Your dad needed help. He didn't get any.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you see that now.
Yeah.
You're able to understand what was taking place there.
Yeah. So it just kind of, I'm glad I made the choice, honestly, with Jesus on my side.
With Jesus, that's the only way you. If you didn't accept Jesus in your heart and lean on Him and pray to Him, you may not be here today.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
I don't think you'd have made it because Jesus delivered you. He stepped in. He intervened, and got you out of that mess. So,
yeah. So
glory to God.
Yep.
Well,
But basically, I mean, those animals are walking with Jesus now. I mean,
that's right. Yeah.
They're actually better with Jesus than with Him.
Well, your dad is going to be held accountable for that anger that he took it out on the animals like that, all because he knew you escaped. You escaped him, and he could no longer take it out on you, so he took it out on the animals, what it sounds like. That you were able to outsmart him and leave and run to safety, and he couldn't handle that.
Yeah.
That's right, Sarah Hoffer. Praise the Lord. Isn't God good? The Lord just shows up at the right time, don't he?
Yeah.
So thank you very much for sharing that.
Got to meet other cousins.
Yeah.
You know, you and Melvin.
Yeah. You got to meet us because of it.
Yeah.
Got something to live for now.
Yeah.
Got something to live for.
Oh, there's Chenna Star. Hey, Chenna, how are you? Hope was all is well. Yeah, she's one of, actually, her dad had passed away.
Okay.
And I knew them. I basically grew up with them, and they, you know, it was like a Sutton. And I was actually under an oversized load, and I actually hit a low bridge because I couldn't function because he just went so quick.
Yeah.
And but he was having fun, so that was good too.
So you got some Michigan folk watching?
Yeah, I recognize some of the Michigan folks.
Daniel Tabitha Joanne Yoder says, "Wow, Dave, you've been through a lot." That's why I wanted him on here. I could do multiple videos with this guy. He's been through some things that I wouldn't want to go through. Yeah, just make it that way. He's been through hell. I mean, he's been through hell on earth, and Jesus came and saved him. Yeah. Glory to God. Praise God.
Yeah.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you for joining me for another video. And now the next time we do one, I'm going to go out to Wyoming, and I'm going to do one out there with him. He came to Ohio while he's healing from his injury, and we did 2 videos. This is the second one, and the third one will be later on, probably this year, when we come out to Wyoming, and we'll get to do another one. Yeah. And until then, y'all have a blessed day, and God bless you all, and thank you again for hopping on here. Is there another comment on here?
One was just saying safe travels.
Safe travels stuff tomorrow, like Dave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Christy, I don't know you, just came across this. God bless you and your families.
Thank you.
Well, hey, you have safe travels back home, and thank you. Thank you for sharing everything that you shared. I know we can do a lot more videos.
It was worth the 1,539 some miles. You know,
you traveled 1,500 miles to get here. Wow.
Yeah, and I was here in Ohio in 2.5 days.
2.5 days.
Yeah.
While you're still healing.
Yeah.
Sitting in there driving that far, probably kind of painful, wasn't it?
Not really. No, it was actually pretty smooth. I didn't even really think about it.
Yeah.
But at first, when I got home, it was pretty painful. I was still on some drugs, and a lot of pain pills. Like I had to take pain pills every 4 hours.
Yeah.
And so then I just kind of slowly went off of them. So
Daniel Yoder says he met you years ago. I don't know if you remember him or not, but he said he's met you.
I'm trying to think who that is, but I don't know.
Put it in the comments.
I think him or her message were like, I came to an Amish building supply or something like that, or
he commented on the last video. I saw that.
Yeah, and I don't remember. I was with a guy that had siding animals, which I do remember that.
Yeah.
Yeah, in Milan, Tennessee, but no, I don't remember. Coming by, to them, but yeah. So.
All right. Well, hey, you all have a blessed evening, and thank you again for your story and your testimony.
You bet.
See you guys.
Yep. See ya. Peace.